We can either shoot rockets at each other or we can shoot rockets to space. And space mission is known for one thing in particular. We needed to unite to be able to overcome gravity. Space travel is uniting, and we need to be united.
Yemi A.D. is a multidisciplinary creative force dedicated to helping people unlock their creative potential. He's also preparing for his biggest mission yet, a trip around the moon. As a Czech-Nigerian artist, entrepreneur, and crew member of the dearMoon mission, Yemi exemplifies a pioneering spirit and profound passion for social innovation and youth empowerment. Yemi is the founder and CEO of Moonshot Platform, an organization dedicated to accelerating young leaders working towards solutions for the Sustainable Development Goals. His 20 years of experience across the industries of entertainment, arts, and technology includes collaborating with Grammy Award-winning artist Kanye West for 5 years to create and execute his global concerts, tours, and music videos. Yemi also works with brands like Google, Apple, Coca-Cola, and T-Mobile, and speaks on stages like TEDx, Texas Eclipse Festival, and South by Southwest on the future of creativity and space exploration. As a choreographer, Yemi was chosen from among 1 million candidates to be a crew member of dearMoon, marking the first civilian space trip around the moon. He's one of the 8 artists chosen to join Japanese entrepreneur and art collector Yusaku Maezawa, who believes art has the power to promote world peace. I first met Yemi at the Austrian Trade Commission's Bold networking event at South by Southwest, but it wasn't until he was on stage revealing the humanoid robot Apollo that I learned he was selected to be on the dearMoon mission. Yemi's got an amazing, infectious energy, optimism, and outlook. His love of movement and finding freedom in movement are intertwined into all aspects of his life, which you'll hear in our conversation. In this episode, listen to Yemi's incredible journey from growing up as the only Black child where he was raised in Czechoslovakia to his rise as a creative powerhouse into traveling into space. We also dive into how Yemi's studies of Indigenous cultures worldwide gave him insight into the intelligence of movement. He also shares the importance of representation in the tech industry to ensure a more inclusive and human-centered approach to AI and robotics. Yemi believes that the best way to predict the future is to create it, and he's doing just that. Discover his vision for the future he's working to create. Enjoy.
But have you ever thought, what if this is all just a dream?
Welcome to Creativity Squared. Discover how creatives are collaborating with artificial intelligence in your inbox, on YouTube, and on your preferred podcast platform. Hi, I'm Helen Todd, your host, and I'm so excited to have you join the weekly conversations I'm having with amazing pioneers in the space. The intention of these conversations is to ignite our collective imagination at the intersection of AI and creativity to envision a world where artists thrive.
Just a dream.
Well, Yemi, welcome to Creativity Squared. It is so wonderful to have you on the show.
Thank you. Hi, how are you?
I am so excited to have you on the show. I've been lucky enough to see Yemi a couple different times earlier this year. The first time when we met was at South by Southwest, and it was a bold community networking event where we were at a glass factory that was super cool. And I remember you had this like Basquiat hat and this like great energy. I was like, oh, this guy is cool. And then I go to South by Southwest and see a keynote on a humanoid robot, and you're on stage doing a keynote and sharing that you're going to the moon. And I was like, what? This guy that I just met at this networking event is going to the moon. So I'm just like super excited to have you on the show and dive deeper into all facets
Thank you for having
of
me.
your life right now.
Thank you.
Well, and I know I've got to get to know you both at South by, and you were on stage at the Texas Eclipse Festival as well, because they had a whole space stage. But for people who are meeting you for the first time, you have a really fascinating origin story. And I was hoping that you could introduce yourself and your origin story.
It's a big question for the beginning. So I was born in the 80s in Czechoslovakia. It's it's a country that neighbors with Germany in Middle Eastern Europe. It was communism. It was under the Soviet rule. And for those who are listening to us, I am a black kid. My mother is Czech. My father is Nigerian. And when I was growing up, it was kind of. But now that I look back, of course, when I was young, I didn't think this way. But when I look back at it, it was a little bit strange because I was growing up in a really, really very monochromatic white community, and my dad, when I was 4, he was visiting his family in Nigeria, and there was a revolution, and he lost freedom because he couldn't come back to the borders got closed, and he couldn't come back to Czech Republic. So it was my mom, my grandma, and my grandma who were raising me. Three white women who was my family and who is my family, and I was like the only black child in the city, and I saw another black kid when I was 15 maybe, and I found dance and movement to be my language, how to connect with people around me. And because it was like the cool thing where kids would come and they would ask me to teach them some moves, and I was always very happy about it because it was the opportunity where I could create some value, or I could just make people happy. So I did it a lot, and I loved to do it, and I just like grew into a dancer and was able to travel around the world and spend time at some of the biggest stages of the world, and then moved from dancing to choreographing to work with big names. I worked 5 years with Kanye West, with Virgil Abloh. I did big shows like Saturday Night Live, VMAs, Coachella. I directed the Jesus tour for Kanye, and so much more. So it was really like I share this story, especially when I travel around the schools when I'm working with young people, because I feel like in the United States you have a lot of this narrative that you can be born in the wrong zip code, you can have the wrong color, you can have the parents that cannot provide, and you become the victim of the system. And I always try to like just like enhance the self-efficacy of young people, that it's really, I know there is like some physical like limits and boundaries that make it hard for you, and I don't say they don't exist. Yes, for a big portion of my life I had to work twice as much for half as much, yeah, and it's true, but it didn't stop me to dream big and to just go from like Middle Eastern small town, like a little ghetto, into Hollywood and do great things. And I think today is the time, is the age where it's worth it to work, and it's worth it to be creative and to really like open your mind, because I think you can really achieve like unimaginable things. And the space mission is just like one of the many, many things that are accessible to all of us.
I find you so inspiring, and I'm sure our listeners will too. You mentioned the space mission, but let's rewind just a little bit. So you had this amazing career as a dancer and a choreographer. At what point in time, I think you were a fellow at the Aspen Institute, where you saw a specific video about the dearMoon project. So tell us, because I'm assuming maybe not everyone who's listening or watching knows about dearMoon. So let's talk about dearMoon and this video and what happened after that, and this amazing moment in time that you find yourself in.
Yeah, it was actually so when I you know when I was growing up, I went through many different professions. I went from dancer to choreographer to director to producer. I founded different companies. I had a talent agency, event production agency, a creative studio, dance academy. And every time when I was kind of reinventing myself, and I love that actually, because starting from scratch, like starting again from nothing, and it's very liberating, because like just building on top of your previous things, it can be limiting, but starting to write a new story on a white paper is beautiful to me. And it's also very grounding, because I'm dreamer, so I like to fly up, but this, like, starting and saying, hey, I don't know how to do that, I have to learn it. I think it keeps my mind very flexible. But when I work with Kanye, uh, something different also happens, because you are at these like big stages. And for those of you who work in entertainment industry, you know that being on a stage, in front of the tens of thousands of people is like a drug, right? And doing the biggest jobs, that people wait, for whole lifetime to be in that position. So when you decide to step down from that, going back to Czech Republic and thinking, now I'm already like in my 30s, like what will be next? And will the next be better than the last? And is it gonna be, like, it's, and also people reminding you like, for some time, it, as much as it was like one of the biggest and most beautiful experiences, especially because of the freedom that gave me, and that I could really create with really almost no boundaries. At the same time, it's also a stigma, because people connect to you, and then it happens to you that you travel around the world, and many times uh, people don't even ask me about my work. They ask me if I met Kim Kardashian, So, and this happens not just one or two times. It happens hundreds of times everywhere you go. So then when you want to step down and reinvent, this also is kind of stuck with you. And it takes more effort and a little bit longer time to really come up with. So this is a great experience. Like, I've been in the rooms, in backstages, and I have such a unique experience that gives me very unique perspective than only few people on this planet have. How can I transform this into the next? How can I take that and make it into something that's going to be valuable, not just for me, but for other people? And that was like that moment. And I decided that I'll try to apply for a scholarship to study in the United States. And after 4 years of trying, I was accepted to Aspen Institute Henry Crown Fellowship. And this was a big thing, because it's like they only take 20 people per year. They have like 500 people on the waiting list, and everybody in that class is like in their 40s, more or less, plus minus 5 years, and everybody is already very successful in their different businesses. Somebody is working, like there is Poppy Harlow, who worked in CNN for the morning news. There is Pete Cadence from Chicago, who was like the guy who got the first license for marijuana distribution, and now is investing his money into covering tuition of young people who are underserved from Chicago. There is Sean Bielat, who worked with robotics. There is Jewel Burns, who is like an amazing entrepreneur who runs Collab Capital. It's a VC fund that support like black-owned businesses, and many other people. Really, the whole spectrum. So everybody's like really kind of boosting each other, and that was big for me. So when that moment, when I applied, I also was at a job with my friend Peter, who is a great cinematographer, and he showed me this video. And this video was describing Yusaku Maezawa. Yusaku Maezawa is a Japanese entrepreneur, art collector, who created Zozotown, also became billionaire, and he decided to offered to bring 8 artists around the moon. And Peter, my friend, brought this video to me and said, "Hey, you see, you're doing these things here, you're doing these events and campaigns, and you should be doing this. You should fly to the moon." And he showed it to me, and I was looking at it, and I couldn't get that out of my head because I was thinking, yeah, I should. I want to. If there is a, I always want to be playing the hardest game. I don't want to just, be doing something. When I learn how to do something, I'm like ready to learn something new. I don't want to just, spin the wheel and repeat stuff. So these two events, the school, the leadership, let's say leadership fellowship, and the moon mission, were like the two things that somehow they collided. And the way how they collided is that when I got to know about the moon mission, I did not have the guts, or I was not strong enough. My self-efficacy was not there to really say like, yeah, I can do it. Let me go. But when I shared it with my class, they were like, hell yeah, you should definitely do this. This is a great idea. And that's something that I like about the United States, because there is, like, when I travel around the world, like, there is, everybody has opinion about the United States, and many people, their opinion is not really very, very nice. But what I love about the United States is that a lot of people encourage each other here. They are like positive about other people's prospects and what they can do, and I like that. I think it makes a big difference if you have people around you who believe in you, who give you those words of encouragement, and it's honest, or it's authentic. And that's what I felt from my class. So and that's how the name Moonshot was created, because they voted that the name of the class will be Moonshot, and just to support me in my mission. And also each of them have their own moonshot, right? Moonshot doesn't have to be about space journey. So as I was leaving from that first seminar, it was in Colorado, in Aspen Mountains, I felt like, wow, these people believe in me more than I even believe in myself. And that was the moment that I decided that I want to apply.
That's beautiful. And I know you said on one of the stages that it almost took you like 6 months of like the idea being planted to build the confidence to like really apply and like believe that it could actually happen. So I love that some ideas take a little bit of time to simmer as well. So dearMoon, does Yusaku, is that how you say it? Does he go by MZ?
Yes,
Is that the
exactly.
short?
He goes by MZ. That's easier.
MZ, okay. Has said that art has the power to promote world peace, and I think that's so beautiful. But a gal said on stage that when the Earthrise photo was taken, William Anders, who was a engineer and part of Apollo 8, when asked like to describe the experience, he has this quote. They should have sent poets and not astronauts, because we couldn't capture the grandeur of what we had seen. And I just love that quote, and it's so beautiful. And that MZ is sending 8 artists. If I understand correctly, you each are tasked with creating your own art project when you go to space. And is there a collective art project too that all 8 will be working on together?
Yes, there is each of us, and this is probably the best part, right after zero gravity. I think, like, for me, like, selfishly, I really am looking forward to dance in the space. And also Starship is such a beautiful development. It's so generous in space, how big it is. So that's like something I'm really looking forward to. But like the second best thing are the people who are flying with me, and the group of people that was selected out of 1 million candidates, and it took 2 years to select. The selection process was really long, and we had to go through so many different moments and points of evaluation. So I'm really looking forward to co-create and co-design with all of these people, and each of us. Everybody there stands for something. Like Yusaku, MZ is all about world peace and about stopping the war, not the war, stopping any war. Then there is Karim, who is an amazing documentarist who dive. He's like a free diver who dive and record and take pictures of whales, or who climbs into volcanoes, and he's like on the edges of the earth where there are no people. That's where he goes, and he is able to capture moments that are just magical. We have Rhiannon Adams, who is using Polaroid and this more like an old school process of taking images, and she is like diving into also depths, but depths of our social structure, to people who are maybe underrepresented, maybe going through a trauma, maybe who are in very unusual and unique circumstances. Or Brandon Hall, who just now released a movie called Out There. He just won some award. It's about national parks, and I love the way he is able to capture documentary movies about our planet. But there is also K-pop singer Top, who is like a huge global star. There is Steve Aoki, the DJ, or Tim Dodd, who is the everyday astronaut founder of the YouTube channel, or Dev Joshi, who is a Bollywood star, the Indian Superman called Balveer. So, like, all these people are really phenomenal, and I can't wait to create with them.
That's amazing. And I don't know where you're at, because I know we don't know the exact date that you guys will be going on this mission, but in the preparation, have you already started any of the like astronaut training of any like underwater, or have you had any sense of what the weightlessness might feel like already? Or yeah, what is, because I know you mentioned on stage that you've had tons of medical tests and stuff, but what has been some of the preparation so far in that regard?
Yeah, so far, really, it was all about the process of getting the ticket. As I said, lots of different types of tests and reviews, and we had to supply presentations and things about us and about our art. Then the medical checkups, which were very thorough, like hundreds of tests. And then meeting each other, getting to know each other, getting to know SpaceX, getting to know the personal, going to the lounges, understanding what happens at the lounge, how it's the feeling. The Starship already launched 3 times. I was there 2 times physically on the shore, and I have to say it's really like transformative experience. When you're gonna be in the rocket one day, launching, leaving the Earth, for us, stand there on the shore in Boca Chica in Texas, seeing the ignition, seeing the cloud and the force and the shockwave through the ground, the trembling, the air, the sonic wave, it completely changed the information about going to space into visceral sensation. And also it brought a very different relationship to that. Before it was like an idea, it was an information, but then after witnessing the launch, it gives you a different level of respect to the decision you've made. So that was big. But when it comes to trainings, this happens once the launch date is set, and it was not set yet. So I myself, I'm aiming I have my own calendar that I'm aiming for, because I need to kind of have some kind of deadline to manage my life and projects and everything towards some goal. But I know it's gonna be very intense, because the rocket is gonna be all new. So we will have to learn how to maneuver the equipment in the rocket. We are not like interfering with the navigation itself, but the technology in the rocket to be able to eat and sleep and just like all the life functions will have to be able also to attend to each other, whether medically or in any other capacity. So I'm really looking forward to it. I think so far the mission and the knowledge of being part of that crew just brought a lot of good things into my life. One of the most important things is keeping healthy. So I started like a longevity like a system or treatments. I also started to study more about the space journeys. I met a ton of astronauts. Pasquet from France, Richard Garriott from US, Tim Copra, also the former commander of the ISS, and it's been beautiful encounters. And I can say that the community of astronauts there are some really amazing people, and it's honor to be part of that group.
And how long is the mission going to be?
It's planned for a week. It's about 6 days because it takes about 3 days to fly to the moon. I think the speed is around 36,000 kilometers per hour, so really fast. And I'm not sure about how long it's going to take, to get to the orbit and resupply, because there is some, resupplying when it comes to propellant. So I think this will all be fine tuned as the development of Starship will be finalized.
I know at the space stage at the Texas Eclipse Festival, where I got to hear you speak, there was also other astronauts and then lay people who have also got to go on commercial space flights, kind of talking about their different experiences. And all of them said, whether it was like SpaceX or Blue Origins or the other ones, that like the takeoff is really great. Like you could hold a drink and, nothing would spill, but the re-entry is very different. But one of my biggest takeaways is that space travel will be really affordable and within reach in our lifetime. And everyone got me really excited because one of my life goals or dreams is to become a space tourist too. And it seems like, for better or for worse, Elon Musk and what he's doing with SpaceX is really driving the commercial space industry forward. And I guess I think it's the Starship too. Like it's bigger than a 747 on the inside. Is that right?
Mm-hmm.
Am I
Yeah,
getting?
It's about the size. Yeah.
Yeah. And one thing that was said on stage a lot too was the overview effect of like how life-changing it is to see Earth from space. But it was also mentioned kind of how you were just saying that even seeing the launches has a little bit of an overview effect too. I didn't know if you wanted to expand on any of your conversations with the astronauts or share a little bit more about the overview effect. But I thought that was one of the things that stuck with me after the Texas Eclipse Festival.
The overview effect is something that astronauts has a different opinions about. Some feel it profoundly, some say it's exaggerated. My observation was especially looking at the experience of MZ and seeing his movie. He created a movie, Why I Went to Space. And this is really just my personal take, and I haven't been to space yet. So take it as just like something I believe in.
Well, we'll get you back on this show afterwards and see if it changes.
Please. I think that there is maybe one misconception. So what I think that happens is that when you go to space and you see all that, right? You see the planet, you don't see the borders. You see how fragile, like a little blue ball it is, and then you have this vast depth around, right? And there is this very tiny foil, like just a little barrier between the depth of the space, nothingness, and then this fertile ground. So all this you're realizing while being in a can, flying really fast through the deathness, and you're very close to death, because the between you and the death is just a very thin piece of material. And I think wherever you are close to death, you're experiencing life very, very fully and very like viscerally. So I think this all this together, it creates some kind of emotion and maybe a little override of things and concepts that we were taught. Right? We are believing in certain truth just because generations and generations of people before us has believed in the same. Right? So it's just passed down. But I think this space journey, it creates some kind of an override that brings you maybe closer to the truth, to more universal truth, not your own truth or truth of your nation or your ethnicity or your religion. And so this is one. But then when you come back, I think it's still you. I think it's still that one person. But I think what happens is it shifts the direction in which you are walking from that point further. So sometimes when you ask the astronaut, what's different from them right after they come back, some who are like very honest, they say nothing. Like, I have this experience, but it's still me. I have no. But then when you ask them 2, 3, 4, 6 months later, 1 year later, they are changed. Because I think what happens is that you just kind of re-aim where you're walking, where you headed. And then after some months, you arrive to that place, right? It doesn't happen immediately. It's like when your hair grows. When you go out and you go back, can you see that your hair grew? No, you cannot. But after a year, you will see the hair grew, right? So that's what I mean. Like, if the hair had different color, you will only know after a year that it changed. And I think that's why it's hard for them to agree on what the overview effect is, because it's not a point in time. It's not a chemical reaction that happens, but it can only, maybe it is, but it can also only be seen by others or observed by yourself, I think, over time.
That's very interesting. Well, I'm very curious what your experience will be on the other side. And one thing that was really evident on stage at the Texas Eclipse Festival was just how much of a new family that you have with the other artists who are going. And you shared a really funny story of one of the launches. I think it was in Kazakhstan. But was just like, everyone was cracking up on stage. I thought it would be fun to share that with our viewers too, just to like get a glimpse into more of the, maybe not the crazy aspirational aspects, but like the day-to-day fun that you guys have.
Yeah. This so you're right. The crew is like a new family, and even though we are so different, I think it's so beautiful because we really add to each other's perspective and maybe even change each other's opinions and minds, which I always welcome. So I remember I went to one of the launches of Soyuz, and Soyuz is one of the oldest rockets used by Russians to resupply ISS, but it's also one of the most reliable rockets ever built. It's working for decades. And also what the Russians are known for, they will launch in any circumstance. It can be winter, it can be a blizzard, it can be cold weather or hot weather. It doesn't matter. They will launch, and they will launch successfully, which is kind of interesting because when you go there and when you see the launch pad, and this is the oldest launch pad in Kazakhstan, it's called Baikonur. And it's where the Gagarin, Yuri Gagarin went from. It looks like a mining facility. It's very old. It's like a rusty. It's very. It looks like in Czechoslovakia in the 80s where I come from. So it feels like a little bit familiar. And then you have these engineers and the people from the launching process, and they have these they are dressed like miners almost, right? And it's very like a heavy machinery, lots of steel and metal. So we are there, and it's about launch. We are like in a certain distance. I don't know if it was like a 2 kilometers or 2.5 kilometers, and I see like Tim Dodd from Everyday Astronaut is setting up his gear, his tripod, and I can see he's nervous. And so I'm asking him like, what's up? He's like, You know what, like, it's we are too close, you know, we are too close. In the United States we would have to be at least twice as far, and it is not safe, and you know, it's and I'm like looking at these people, and there's like 100 people around, and I can see a lot of the Russian people. I can see they have done this before, so I'm being cool, but at the same time he really knows, like he is like, Tim Dodd is like the person to go to if you want to know anything about rocket science and the way the development goes, or what could go wrong. You ask him, and I have done many times during this experience. So then this like big Russian guy who is a trainer of the cosmonauts comes and say, "Hey, come with me. We're gonna drive." And he brings this van, and he put us in, and there is like a van for 9 people, but we are like 20 people in squeezed, and we are driving, about, it's like a 10 minutes before the launch. We're driving towards the rocket, and as I understood, we were gonna see like a place that is closer but safe, so we can really have the experience. So we are like driving across this like ground. It's really wobbly. We are like banging our heads in the minivan, and I'm looking at Tim Dodd. Tim Dodd is sweating. He's sweating, and I asked him, "What's up, Tim?" And he's like, "I don't know. Maybe we're gonna bleed from our ears." And I'm starting to be really nervous, and I am like, "What?" So we are driving towards the rocket, and we are passing the rocket just minutes before the ignition, and we are arriving a little bit further behind, and stopping the car behind a heap of ground, literally just like a heap of dirt that is as high as the minivan, and we are just standing behind it. And I could see like everybody is really, really freaking out, but not everybody, only the the Americans and me from Czech Republic, and the other nationalities who are in the car. And then I see the walkie-talkie, and he is picking the walkie-talkie, and there is like this voice that says, uh, "Come back, come back, come back! You can't do this, you can't do this." And we called you, or we sorry, I don't know, something in Russian, and he is like turning to us, and he is apologizing. He says, "Well, we can't do this today. It's too much press. We have to go back." So we are, and because it was like a big moment, there was lots of, so we are driving back. As we are driving back, this is really just like minutes before. It's already, the rocket already is steaming. The cloud of steam is coming from the rocket as we are passing by, going to the original spot. And as we are walking out, shaking, putting the tripods back, the rocket is launching, and the ignition happens. Like, I would never forget this. It was the most like out of this world experience. And then when the rocket launched, like a lot of people were crying. Look, like you, it's really hard not to tear up, because it's like you see there is people in this can that they penetrate the stratosphere, and it makes this sound like a celestial sound, and then you know these people are gone, and they will be back. So we went to just walk around, because it takes few hours before the rocket gets to the ISS, before they connect, before they touch down. And we went to this local pub, and this is beautiful pub made of wood, like wooden pub, and we can see these guys, some of the engineers, sitting down drinking moonshine. And one of them speaks English, and he's like, "We are the engineers. We are the people who are turning the key to launch." So we spent a couple of hours with them. We drank with them. We laughed with them. We heard about the relationship between Russia and Kazakhstan. We heard about how this, like just the real authentic stories of people. Because I sometimes it really is a privilege to be able to travel as much as I do, to be proximate to people, to ask questions to people. because just depending on the news, whether it's TV or internet, it's like very often it's echo chambers or needs of people and also being careful about not to really say something bluntly, or not to discourage someone, or not to move the stock exchange prices, and all that. That there's so much complexity before information can get to us. So I think it's a great privilege to just be like sitting in a pub with people and asking them the real questions about their real lives.
And I know one of my takeaways too is I want to go see a rocket launch this year and see one for myself. And one of the things that you said at South by, so I saw you on stage, and then you did a special smaller session where we had a round table and got to do a deeper dive, is that you've been kind of questioned a little bit of like, why are you going to the moon when there's so much happening back at home? That it might not be frivolous, but like, why are you putting your energy going to the moon? And you had said something really beautiful of like the importance of dreaming despite what's happening in the world. And, space is such like a beautiful unifying thing. But I'm going to read what you said and then let you expand on it because it was so beautiful. What is our future made up, if not woven from the threads of our individual dreams, if we don't create space and time for dreaming, and if we are not courageous enough to share the dreams with each other, then we can never evolve this tapestry of the future that we want to dream about. And the space journey that we are getting ready for is definitely an important dream that should be. I thought that was just so beautiful.
Yeah, wow, I don't even, this is funny, I don't even know I said this. I should write it down so I can say it again. So it's sometimes all these experiences are creating something that I'm not even aware, and it's just coming out. but what I believe in is many people. It happens many times because there are conflicts in the world, and sometimes you are like at the reception, yeah, and there is food, there is people chit chatting about things, and you can see money is spent, people are indulging themselves, and very often you are thinking, how about my brothers and sisters from Africa, or from Ukraine, or from Israel, or from Palestine? How about those? Like, how can this be fair, me being here, doing these things and indulging myself while they don't have anything to eat or shelter? And there is this space mission. I don't think it falls into the category of indulgence. I don't believe it, because I think, one, we can either shoot rockets at each other, or we can shoot rockets to space. And space mission is known for one thing in particular. We needed to unite to be able to overcome gravity. If we did not unite, we wouldn't be able to build space station. We wouldn't be able to really do something significant. Yeah, there was a space race. Yeah, but we all know how it happened, right? Lives were lost, things were rushed, and in the end, was it sustainable? No. It happened once and then nothing, right? Because that was an individual effort. But now there are united efforts. The partnerships between private sector and the governance and public sector, the partnerships between countries, and beautiful, inspiring, people who are just, showing different perspective of how can we look at space travel and how can we look back on Earth. So I think space travel is uniting, and we need to be united. Number two, I know that there is war, and I know that we absolutely need people looking down into the depth of those wars, and aiding people, supporting people, figuring out how can we get out of this war. But at the same time, it cannot be everyone on this world looking in the same direction. Because if everyone looks down, we all going to end up going down. we need to have portion of people looking up and looking in the other direction. And why? It's one, because every new child that's born into this world, I want them to be excited about things, and excitement and fun and just a good, positive, expansive feelings. It's important for us to just want to be alive and to want to build and connect with each other and unite again. And that's what war is not doing. War is divisive. So those of us who have the strength to deal with the war, they should deal with the war. And those of us who have the strength to dream big should also dream big. And these two things can happen at the same time. I think they must happen at the same time, because otherwise I think the world would be a dark place.
Beautifully said. And one of the questions that you got asked at that roundtable at South by was just kind of like, does this feel surreal to you? Is the enormity of the seat that you sit in, because you have this kind of like Willy Wonka golden ticket on this trip. And I remember you kind of saying something along the lines of like, I feel like my life has prepared me for everything that has come before to where I'm at right in this moment. And you felt like just very grounded where you're at, and that you're at where you're supposed to be. And I wanted to just kind of, I guess, check in if that's how you feel and how you kind of are processing this journey that you're on. Because I know it's kind of a long journey between getting accepted and then also until the actual mission goes into space too.
I don't think it serves us very well when we are tied up with an outcome too much. Let me just explain it. I'll start with creativity. So creativity, because this is like my biggest topic, is I'm traveling around the world and trying to teach about creativity to kids in order to step into their creative potential and to shape future and to shape their environment and to shape their life, not to be just in that circle of how their parents were doing and how their country is doing, just really create something new. And then also I do it with companies to speak to boards and to infuse innovation culture, and the creativity is connected to freedom and to ability to really get away from the patterns of the past. Otherwise, we are really, really good in the recycling the past and placing it ahead of us like it's something new, but it's nothing new. If you look these 100 years, it's very similar to the last 100 years, right? We had the last 100 years in the 1900s. We had in the first 20 years, we had a Spanish flu. So 50 million people died. It was a pandemic. Then we had the First World War, and now we are in a very, very similar spot. So I say the toys have changed. The environment maybe changed a little bit, but the issues are still the same. So that's kind of sad to me. So I think creativity and freedom. And why? Because if you're not free, you're just using creativity to recycle the past. And if you really kind of question your freedom and step into being really open to new scenarios, that's the way to go. It's not good for you to be completely locked on the target, like on the outcome, because and that's how it's connected to creativity. Because I believe that you have to be sensitive to how you feel at every stage of the journey. Sometimes we looked on other people's successes, we copy paste other people's success, the outcomes of other people's journeys, and we forgot about the journey itself. But it should always be the journey that is like expansive to you, that's healthy, that's enriching, it's exciting. And I think that is a relationship that you need to remind yourself of every day, every day. And I could say, people ask me, so how was the feeling when you had to sacrifice so much to be able to apply for this mission? Because I kind of closed down one of my businesses. I decided to move to a different country. I kind of really just put everything in line and I didn't know if I was going to be picked, but I knew that if 1 million people from the whole world are applying, if I don't go full on, then I should not even try it. But when people ask me about the sacrifice, I don't think it was actually sacrifice. When I look at it, it was like I gave up some things that I should have given up a long time ago. And I was just clinging on some, because when you grow, you have certain recipes in your life. And these recipes, they help you to succeed. But then, for example, the recipe that you use to succeed when you are between 20 and 30 is a very different recipe than the one between 30 and 40 or between 50 and 60. And I think the stagnation comes from us holding on too hard on old recipes. But letting go of that equation, I think it's necessary for you to let go of the old one, for you to discover the new one. And it doesn't happen that you first get the new one and then you can get rid of. No. There's this moment of leap of faith that you really have to let go to kind of, for the new thing to emerge. So back to the journey of applying for the dearMoon, when I look back, I really think it just accelerated some good decisions in my life that were really healthy for me and that were great. So even now, when you say like how, of course, there's this torch that's really burning in your hands, right? But I've had those torches before with Kanye West, with my company when I was employing people. I was responsible, for others in big projects. We were doing a global campaign for Apple for new iPad Pro. I was doing campaign for Mercedes-Benz when they brought new electric cars on the market. We were doing like many different things, and every single thing, it always really mattered to me. I took my work was always very personal to me. I would always give everything into it. So there was these torches that burn. But of course, this is one of the hottest torches that I have ever held, and it's burning. But I think in order for you to be healthy, to have a healthy relationship to it, I think it's important to check with yourself and always look under your feet. Where are you? Are you having fun? Are you learning new stuff? Are you meeting great people? Are you creating good partnerships? And I think if this is in check, if this is all like in line, then this new recipe is going to emerge. You just have to be present to it and aware.
Okay, so one of the things that you've said is that you have found freedom in movement. And I thought that was so beautiful. And also that there's intelligence in movement. And you've had the great privilege of spending 20 years to travel around the world and study indigenous cultures and their movement at rituals and mornings. And I was curious, like, how you came to do that, and like what is like one of your biggest lessons from getting to travel the world and observe and people in those moments?
Yeah, well, I have to say that my relationship to dance and to movement has changed many times through my life. But that's why I know that there is intelligence in movement itself, and in your body. It's not in your mind. It's not in your brain. It's just in the body, cultivated, for tens of generations, for thousands of years. Because the fact that you are alive, so many people have died for you to be alive, right? When you think about genetics and how body has this unique ability to heal, and then if something is wrong, you die, and then you don't survive, and then and you don't pass on the genetic material. So our body, and the fact that we are the one who have survived all of the things that this world put on us is unique. So there is intelligence in it, and the language of that intelligence is movement. And so when I travel around the world and I meet indigenous tribes and people, I study their movement and their rituals and their ceremonies. And when I say study, I don't mean academically. I mean like being with them, being close to them, spending time with them in their like inner circle. And what I've learned and what was very kind of liberating, I think I found a key to unlocking my own personal freedom through that journey. And I think it was one of the most important aha moments for me. And I think it was a combination of things. One of the things is when we are all part of the social construct, right? So we think about like we have a name, we are like someone, but just the fact that we have a name like Helen, it's limiting because you are learning things about Helen, about that character in your imagination since you were child. And people tell you what Helen is, what Helen is not, what Helen can do, what she cannot do, what she's good at, what she's not good at. So you also agree with yourself internally on those different things, thousands of things, maybe tens of thousands of things. So eventually it becomes a story that's kind of a limiting. And then because when you wake up and you meet your husband, your kids, and your girlfriends, and they kind of expect you to do you. So it's not just about what you think you are, but also what they think you are. And when you go and you travel to indigenous cultures and you are in such a different environment that these people have very different expectations from you. Sometimes they have no expectations from you. And it's very liberating because you don't have to do you. You can just, and it's kind of shattering that social construct for you, and you can be anything. And that's very liberating. And when you spend enough time and when you go back, and I've done it for 20 years, so I go back and forth, it can be a little bit disorienting also. There's lots of uncertainty. But if you go through that, it's like going through the fire. If you go through that on the other side, there's something really great that's waiting for you. That will become part of your awareness. And then for me, one of the tools I use when I create new things, and an operating system that I can switch into when I want to be creative. So I think that was not a very speedy answer, but I hope that it's an answer that people can use for their own benefit, hopefully.
And you went from being with indigenous communities to having your dance moves train a humanoid robot as well. And when you were on stage at South by for the keynote, one of the things that you opened that session with is, what are the questions we should be asking our artists and the leaders and the people building this tech? And I wanted to ask you that question. What do you think is one of the biggest questions that we need to be asking kind of at the intersection of art and creativity as we're in this crazy technological, moment of change too?
Yeah, this is fascinating to me. So as you can see, I'm like a futurist, right? So I love space. I'm a geek. So I love science fiction. I love board games and creativity and traveling around the world, and definitely also anything to do with robots, because one, a robot is a word that was created by a Czech author in the 1920, Karel Čapek, in his novel, and so it comes from Czech. I'm very proud of it, and two, I feel like it is one of the biggest shifts of paradigm that we are heading into. And because I feel like it's full of people who are really very analytical, technological people, very, very number driven. And I think it's important. I think really a representation matters. Not just there should be Black people and queer people and women represented everywhere, but I feel like also representation in the mindset and the way of thinking. And very often I see like there is not many of the people that are more from the creative side. So I really enjoy it to work. And right now I've developed this keynote for South by with Ep49, which is an Austin-based company that creates, I think they have the most beautiful humanoid robot on the market. It's really beautiful. It's very gentle. And the CEO, Jeff Cardenas, is very like a human-centered thinker and leader, which is great. So I started to work with them on the body language of the humanoid robot, and I started to think with them about what would be the framework of human-centered strategy. Because I think we have to do really just a better job than we did with the other technological advancements like you can see that social media and the algorithm and the way we distribute news and all of these like disinformation, it really corroded our society. It changed lives of kids. It's either shortening our lifespan, creating a pandemic of loneliness and more and more and more, and also especially the most like kind of critical thing is that it's rewarding the worst in us, right? It's rewarding us for lying, for being toxic, for being aggressive, for it's rewarding our speed over our truth. And I think we really did a bad job. And now we're trying to pick up the pieces, but I think it's really hard because already it's feeding so many people. The machine was built and the machine is hungry. So it's very hard to control it. And I think then when it comes to robots, we should look at this. We should just do a better job. And I think we cannot do a better job without really, really good representation. Because if you build something this important with just people who are all like think alike, they are like all aligned. If you don't really challenge yourself to disagree about things and be generous enough to bring these disagreements into uniting solutions, then I think we are heading into something much worse than what we are seeing in the age of the internet. So AI is a big part of it, of course, and I just love to be on the inside and take a part in this development, because I think it's vital for us to have a future that we want to dream of.
One question, because we talk a lot about on the show of like envisioning, a future. What would be your ideal future? And you've said like we need more positive stories of what we can do with this tech and break from the past patterns and stuff. In the future, according to Yemi, what would be like one of your ideal scenarios or that we can envision and maybe help dream together?
I think that the future, if there should be one thing I wish for the future, it would be a future where we learn to improve and just have great relationships. I think that the relationships are corroded. I think we don't learn enough about relationships. And what I mean is the relationship to us, to ourselves, relationships to each other, and also relationships of countries, ethnicities, and nations with each other. And I think this would be the big, big wish, because if we would learn and if we would also teach our kids about all the intricacies and the differences in cultures, and we really focus on the relationships, I think world would be really, really changed and different.
I want to make sure, because you are so youth driven, and want to make sure that youth have a seat at the table, that you have an opportunity to share a little bit more about your Moonshot platform and let people know what it is and if they want to get involved. And that will be my last question, even though I have like 20 more for you.
Thank
so
you.
I'll hold off.
Thank you. So Moonshot platform is something where my heart is. It's where what I spend the most time at every day. It's a global accelerator for young social innovators. We have community across 88 countries, and this year is a very special one. Very soon, probably by the time this podcast is out, we will be launching Moonshot Awards, where we will distribute $100,000 to young social innovators. We will also grant them a mentorship, and we will invite 30 to 100 of them to Moonshot Camp, which is accelerating program. It's a really transformative program. It's built in immersive classrooms. We have amazing mentors, like top class mentors, who are people who have run multi-billion-dollar companies, who are leaders in the government, leaders of NGOs, who are scientists, who are professors at top Ivy League universities. So this is something I'm really passionate about, because I believe that young people deserve to have a seat at the table. I think diversity is also about age and about having these young people, because these young people are in a very, very special and unique position. This is a generation that will be teaching their kids, but also their parents. This is the generation that will inherit the world that right now we have no clue of what they will inherit, as much as we have no clue on what to teach young people in the schools. For the first time in the history, really, we don't know what will the world look like in 10, 20 years. So I think it's a unique opportunity for us to also shift and allow young people to have the seat at the table. We focus on people between 15 and 30 years old, but anyone who is listening to this podcast, please go to moonshotplatform.org and become a part of the community. There is no age restriction. You can be a mentor. You can be an advisor. You can just be part of it. I think anybody who is rooting for young people, and we are not just working with universities, we are working with different kind of organizations in Africa, in Asia, in Latin America. So it's not just the global north, it's also global south. So thank you, Helen. Thank you for giving me an opportunity to also share a bit about Moonshot. It was great to talk to you. And I hope my intention before this podcast was that I want to create a space where the listeners can have at least one aha moment during listening to us. So I hope that some of you will. And if you want to connect with me, I am on Instagram as Yemi Alchemist, also on Facebook, LinkedIn, and I'll be happy to chat. Thank you.
And I'll be sure to link to everything to make sure that you can find Yemi very easily. And Yemi, thank you so much for sharing all of your time and perspective and your just infectious optimism and energy. I just get excited being physically in your presence, but even hearing your voice, you just have this infectiousness about you that I just so appreciate, and so excited for you. Congratulations, and we'll all be cheering you on and following you, and excited to have you back on the show once you're back after your trip and see what's changed for you then too. So thank you for being on the show.
Thank you, Ellen. Thanks, everyone.
Thank you for spending some time with us today. We're just getting started and would love your support. Subscribe to Creativity Squared on your preferred podcast platform and leave a review. It really helps. And I'd love to hear your feedback. What topics are you thinking about and want to dive into more? I invite you to visit creativitysquared.com to let me know. And while you're there, be sure to sign up for our free weekly newsletter so you can easily stay on top of all the latest news at the intersection of AI and creativity. Because it's so important to support artists, 10% of all revenue Creativity Squared generates will go to ArtsWave, a nationally recognized nonprofit that supports over 100 arts organizations. Become a premium newsletter subscriber or leave a tip on the website to support this project and ArtsWave. And premium newsletter subscribers will receive NFTs of episode cover art and more extras to say thank you for helping bring my dream to life. And a big, big thank you to everyone who's offered their time, energy, and encouragement and support so far. I really appreciate it from the bottom of my heart. This show is produced and made possible by the team at Play Audio Agency. Until next week, keep creating.